My name is Jamin Goecker. I'm an associate real estate broker in the state of Alaska. My mission, as always, is to help you to build an intentional and significant legacy for yourself and your family by coaching in real estate. And today we're going to be talking about what's going on in Anchorage, looking at the residential, the condo market, and the multifamily market to give you an idea for what's going on in the largest real estate market in the entire state. Before we do, as always, give this video a like, give it a subscription, do all the stuff, and let's go and jump into today's video. Now, the first thing we want to look at when we're talking about the market update is what's going on in the residential market. And the first thing we want to know in the residential market is what's going on in the inventory. Well, this time last year, we see that there was 188 properties available in the market for Anchorage for the single family. This year, 198. So just a very, very small increase there, not a whole lot, but it is a very small increase. Once we kind of look at the historical average, what we'd expect this time of year, it's still really about a third of what we usually see, because usually we're closer to about 600 properties available around this time of year. But still an increase for the month of January, so we'll take it. The next thing that we see is that the number of single-family homes that have sold actually increased slightly, going from 91 for the previous year for the month of January to 109 for this past month in January. So that is an indication that we are still seeing a lot of good demand for single-family homes in the real estate market here in Anchorage, even though we are in fact seeing still a pretty compressed inventory compared to what we usually see. This time of year, usually we would see about 105 to about 140. So the fact that we're sitting at about 110 historically is really just not that much of a decrease. It's certainly not as proportional of a decrease for the amount of inventory that's been cut over the past couple of years. Now, last but not least, I know the thing everyone is going to be asking is what's going on as far as the active sold price. Well, the actual sold price that we're seeing right now went from about $435,000 for the month of January this time last year to about $456,000 this year. So we're seeing about a $21,000 increase year over year, just looking at those 2 months. We don't really have much else to compare it off of right now for the year to date. So that is significant. We are still seeing a pretty healthy appreciation for homes in the Anchorage area. So if you are a homeowner, that's great. And if you're a home buyer, we'll talk about what the implications are for you in the summary. Next thing we're going to look at is what's going on in the condo market. Now, the condo market historically has been something where we have had just a glut of inventory to the point where we just really couldn't. There's just so much that the average sold price usually stayed pretty stagnant, or it actually decreased a little bit just because there was so many options available. Now, let's go and take a look and see what's going on for the inventory now. Usually around this time of year, we'd see about 350 condos available. Right now, 71. So there are 71 condos available, which is up from the year before. It was 47, but historically, you still see we're about a fifth of what we usually would see for the active inventory. So inventory for condos, way down. Next thing we want to look at is what's going on for the number of condos that have actually sold. And this time last year for the month of January, we see that there was 50, and this year it's 53. And that's actually pretty average for what we would expect for the market for this time of year for the month of January. Even historically, we would see about 50 to maybe 60 condos selling for the month of January. So despite the inventory being so drastically cut, we still see that there's a pretty high demand just by the number of sold units keeping up. Last but not least, we see that the average sold price for condos went from about $230,000 for the month of January going back last year to this year, where the average sold price is approximately $260,000. So that's right, we're seeing a $30,000 difference for the average sold price. Now, obviously, these are averages. Once the sold numbers get compressed down to a certain amount, you start seeing some weird anomalies statistically where it's hard to take the average and it be accurate, just because you start losing some of that once it's so compressed down. But this is a really solid indication. The average sold price for condos in Anchorage still going up, and that's kind of welcome news if you've been a condo owner for the past we'll say 4 or 5 years, because historically, there's been a glut of inventory. It's been an asset class you jump into when you're trying to save money, not necessarily trying to appreciate. And so this is just kind of a good welcome if you are a condo owner. We're going to give you the roundup for what's going on in the multifamily market in just a minute. Before we do, though, just wanted to make sure you were all aware I do host a podcast called the Alaskan Journey Podcast. Link for that is going to be in the description section down below. In that, in the podcast and interviews that we do, these are really people who already live here in Alaska, and they're just kind of telling their experiences and tips and tricks they would give to you if you were considering moving up here as well. So if that's something you're thinking about, do make sure you go check that out. Now, let's go and finish up today's market update looking at the multifamily market. Now, looking at the multifamily market, we are seeing a slight increase for the number of multifamily properties that were on the market. This time last year, there were 35 available, and this year it is 59. So that's a very slight increase. Usually around this time of year, we'd see anywhere from about 120 to about 160. So yes, even though we are at approximately 60 properties available on the market now, and that's an increase from the year before, proportionally, it's still not a whole lot of inventory for what we would normally see on the market around this time of year. Now, the next thing we see is that the number of properties that have actually sold went from 18 last year to 19 this year. So we see a one unit increase, which that's not too big of a deal year over year. That is pretty average, though, even historically. So it's not like the inventory just dropped and then also the demand dropped as well and it just stayed proportional. No, we're seeing the inventory dropped like what we said, and we're seeing that the number of units that are actually selling remained about the same. So that really does speak to a higher demand than what the inventory is available. Because normally around this time of year, even before COVID and everything happened, we usually see about 15 to about 20 properties for multifamily that would sell for the month of January. So we sold 19 this year. We're about par. Last but not least, the average sold price for the multifamily went from about $459,000 this time last year to about $520,000 this year. So that's about approximately a $60,000 year-over-year average increase. Before we get too excited, though, I would just point out that these multifamily average sold prices does include everything from the little duplex all the way up to the big commercial property. And for that reason, you can see how throwing one of those big properties into the mix here would definitely throw off the average. That's not to say I don't believe that the average sold price is going up. It is, because rents are going up because this is a time of inflation, but I just don't think that it's gone up quite that much by $60,000. In other words, I don't think that if you had a multifamily property and you sold it this year, as opposed to last year, you would be guaranteed to get $60,000 more. I think that there is increased value for multifamily in the market, probably just not by that much. Go ahead and reach out, talk to me if that's something you're interested in getting some more clarity on, and we'll go from there. Now, kind of summarizing everything. If you're a buyer, how would you look at these numbers? Well, the way I would look at it right now is just understanding where we are historically, and that is low inventory, okay? Because we had kind of a bloodbath back around the COVID times, about 2020, 2021, where the interest rates were low, and the inventory started dropping just because nobody really wanted to move, and then a lot of other variables played into it, but the inventory was low. Now there's talk about the interest rates dropping again, and a lot of the people who weren't able to get homes a couple of years ago who have been waiting on the fence, waiting to jump in, are now looking, and they're like, okay, this could be our chance. I think we're going to go for it this time. And there's much less inventory available now than what there was then. So if that happens, just expect it could be competitive. And that's not to dissuade you, but it is to make sure you are making an informed decision as it pertains to your timeline. So if you had the ability to jump in sooner so you can get something, even if it's at a higher interest rate, get something now and then watch as everyone else loses their mind. If the interest rates really drop down low, I would recommend it. Not only that, when there aren't as many buyers right this moment as there would be if the interest rates suddenly dropped, then you're not going to have as much competition, and your opportunity for negotiating better terms, closing costs paid by the seller, repairs, stuff like that, is going to be a lot better than if you wait and jump in with everybody else. If you're a seller, this continues to be a really strong market for sellers, not as good as it was before, okay? So don't expect just because just because your neighbor got this super plush deal back in 2021, that you're going to be able to roll up with the same exact thing and you're going to get 20, 30 offers and you're not going to have to put in any work or do any of the marketing, staging, or any of that other stuff. We got to put in the work now. We're still in a pretty solidly seller's market, but not so much to where you just throw a dart at the board and you get something. Not quite that easy anymore. Reach out, talk to me, and let's see how best I can help you if that's something you're thinking about. If you're an investor, as always, make sure the numbers balance out. Make sure that as you're looking at the deals here, that you do keep in mind that a lot of these properties are probably going to be under rented, which means that their rents might not be up to the full market value. So do make sure you keep an eye on what the actual market rent values are for your area, and that's going to be the best indication probably for you these days as to whether or not a deal is going to be good. So this has been my market update for Anchorage. I hope it's been useful. If you have any further questions, do reach out to me at my website down below. Let's chat and see how best I can help you. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.